And this is the after part of Amityville II, The Possession, where we have a lovely cover right there. Amityville II. You might still hear the dog yipping in the background. There it goes again. It's, for whatever reason, whenever I'm doing one of these, the dog starts yipping. Um, that's a whole nother matter, though. Let me think. When I first saw Amityville II, The Possession, I'm going to try and talk over the dog because the dog desperately wants to be heard more than me at this point in time. Hopefully it doesn't bother anyone else but me. But let's see. When I first saw Amityville 2, stepping in knowing that it was going to be a prequel, I had like no expectations of enjoying it or liking it at all. It didn't seem to be well respected by critics at all. The first one slightly was, but the second one, I didn't see too many people talking about it. I know differently now, now that I've seen it, but at the time, stepping into Amityville 2, it was just, I didn't exactly know what to expect, especially the fact that I just wanted to see what happened in the house after the Lutzes had gone there, because we had already, in flashbacks, seen the DeFeo murders, which I'm not sure if they were called the DeFeos in the Amityville horror. I would have to go back and rewatch it to check. They definitely changed the last name in Amityville 2. And it's interesting, in the end credits, you see this disclaimer that any resemblance to reality or like real events is purely coincidental, which is totally false. And that's just, I mean, we know. I thought that was just really interesting. Amityville 2, The Possession, exceeded my expectations on pretty much every account. But it took a while upon first viewing. Second viewing, I knew what I was getting myself into, and I was really excited. 2 is my favorite of the franchise. I think it's a lot better than the original movie. Having said that, 2, the first film is an extremely subtle film, almost to the point of fault, because there were several things that I didn't pick up on that had to be explained in interviews about what's actually happening. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just not picking things up strong enough. 2 is much louder of a film, and the camera is whipping around all over the place. They're just doing crazy things with the camera. It's a big special effects movie, especially when Sonny becomes possessed and you see his stomach like that. It's just it's such a great over the top film, but it deals with things that the first one wouldn't dare touch upon. Demonic possession, and it's extremely horrifying. The moment that we see Sonny murder his family, it's this elongated sequence. It's very dark. It's very scary. And it's by far, that one moment alone is by far more effective than the entire film of the original Amityville Horror. 2, oh my goodness. 2 also deals with incest, which is personally the element of the movie that I think is so different, so unique, especially in this genre. They're making this claim that due to the fact that Sonny becomes possessed, and I guess you can say that he's possessed by the house. I'm not sure, because the first one made the Amityville Horror a haunted house movie. That's not really what's happening in Amityville 2. There really isn't a clearly defined reason about why he becomes possessed. He just does, and he's trying to do things to hurt God in particular. So he takes advantage of his sister, whom he does love, but he pushes that love to extremely unhealthy boundaries. And that, to me, is the most unique element of the picture. It might also be the creepiest element. The possession, I mean, the murders is an incredible thing, and then there's the movie actually goes on for quite a while after the murders occur because he's in jail and the priest is busy trying to prove that he's possessed. And by the end of the movie, obviously, he's no longer possessed. But the movie ends on a very grim note that it was so subtle the first time I didn't pick up on it until the second time. The priest becomes possessed by the end of the movie. And we're not exactly sure whatever happens to that priest. And I don't think we really need to know. I want to know. And that's good. That means it's good filmmaking. That I want to know what happens next after this. And technically speaking, we do know what happens next because if you've seen the original film, you've seen the next step. But that's with the house. I wanted to see what happened with the priest. Oh, man. There's another recognizable face in 2 as well. Burt Young from the Rocky franchise plays this abusive father, and it's just, oh my gosh, this movie is just like dosed, like drenched in horrible things that are very real. A father who verbally and physically abuses his children and his wife. The incest portion, oh my goodness, it's like, can you I was floored the first time I saw the movie because there's just so much more to pick up on and to dwell on in 2 than there is in the original. And I'm really excited, so pleased I continued with Amityville after I saw the first one, because the second one was even better. I think it's even the best of the entire franchise. Even though I haven't seen the whole franchise, I think 2 would be a hard one to top because it's aged wonderfully. Just so many hard things, really difficult subjects that it brings up. And it's very raw. It's an extremely raw film, much more so than the original film. Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure what else to say. Um, 2 is I think it's an incredible sequel. I mean, technically speaking, it's a sequel because it has 2 in front of it, but it's really a prequel. I mean, it's just an incredible film. It held up. And I picked up on more things the second time I watched it, so yeah, I having seen it again, it was even better the second time than it was the first time. That happened with the original as well. I'm not sure how that's going to be for 3D, which also, because 3D's next week, 3D drops the rating from R to PG. And that will be an interesting thing to revisit Amityville 3D, but as far as Amityville 2 goes, and it took a while for me to get into the mold of it because it's a very loud movie. It's a very tonally different film, but the acting is extraordinary, especially by the young man who played the possessed boy. I think everyone just really brought their A game to 2. And I don't think everybody did bring their A game to the original, in particular Margot Kidder, who I think was an extraordinary actress, still is. But she did not fully commit to the role, unfortunately. And I think everybody was present. Everybody was there in Amityville 2. Anyways, I hope you guys will come back with me next week for another segment of Before and After for the Amityville horror. And I'll be watching and discussing Amityville 3. Amityville 3D. And I will be watching it in both 3D originally and 2D to see how those experiences compare. Thanks, guys.